Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about how Disney Channel failed the Cheetah Girls in terms of character development and growth. So I've talked all about the Cheetah Girls before. I've uploaded 2 videos. The second movie I'll upload in October. And so, I just now finally, for the first time ever, watched the second and third movie. Back in the day, for whatever reason, I just had no interest. Because, with the second movie, I saw, a clip, and it felt so different from the first. And as for the third, I noticed there was only 3 girls instead of 4, so I knew something had to happen. And I'm just kind of like, there's no way this is going to succeed after that movie, and it didn't. Because 1 year later, the band actually broke up. Yes, in fact, Disney Channel actually created an actual band from that of a TV movie based on a series of books. The craziest thing ever. And Disney Channel could have went far with this, but there were complications. 3 of the 4 girls constantly were fighting with each other. And, with a lackluster third movie and a failed television show that never saw the light of day, they just decided to pull the plug on the entire thing, which is a crying shame because, the Cheetah Girls are no joke. That was my jam back then. They were cool, especially in that first movie, they had so many iconic songs. But then as I started to watch the second and third movie, while, yes, are good movies, they don't necessarily feel like cheetah movies. The second one kind of does, even though it's set in a very, very, exotic place. The third movie, which is also set in an exotic place, that's the one that at least feels the most like the Cheetah Girls. It's like with each passing sequel, they kept stripping away what made the Cheetah Girls the Cheetah Girls. And that really bummed me out. But what really bummed me out was all what the girls did in the other movies. And I'm just kind of like, why couldn't they give them better character development or growth? 'Cause sometimes, yes, they did piggyback off what happened in the first movie, but then sometimes they didn't. And that was a crying shame because it's kind of like, Disney just didn't care. Because the first movie felt very real. It felt very urban. It felt very organic. Then come the second movie, Disney Channel decided, all right, let's take this organic movie and just make a typical Disney-like type thing. Let's put them in an exotic location, fancy clothes, and big bold songs. The songs were no longer karaoke songs, and now it just feels like a Disney animated movie where they just start singing and dancing for no absolute reason. Once they did that, the characters no longer felt real. They felt like little cartoon characters. And with Disney Channel, they do that a lot with their movies. They'll send the cast from a television show to an exotic location, and then there'll be a completely different storyline that's unrelated to the show, on which it derived from and stuff. And even though Cheetah Girls never started off as a show, it did eventually start to feel like a Disney Channel show almost, just not a whole lot of wacky comedy type stuff. But just to give you a quick little recap, the first one is my all-time favorite movie. It feels real. It feels organic. You feel like these people could exist in real life. The first movie was about a bunch of girls that are probably in the 8th or 9th grade. And they want to be a band. They want to be a famous band. They want to be successful. Each girl come from a different walk of life. You have Aqua, who's from Texas, who moved to New York. You have Dorinda, who is dirt poor, and she is a foster child. She has no idea who her real parents are, and more importantly, she doesn't even know her race. Then you have Chanel, who mom is all about her new boyfriend and wanting to move with her boyfriend to Paris. Oh, by the way, if you ever hear my third or second movie where I say Chanel has money problems, My bad. I meant to say what it was is that she took her mom's credit card and spent hundreds of dollars and stuff. I couldn't quite remember what exactly she did in the first movie. I just know it revolved around money. But if her mom's gonna go marry a rich guy, then yeah, they had to have struggled at one point and everything. So anyway, um, and then you have Galleria, who's all about keeping the band together, pushing them to their limit, which causes friction amongst the girls to where they break up. They literally break up in every movie. And they get back together in the weirdest little way possible. So, with all that, they tried to be a band, and this record label dude, he tried to change their image, but they're like, no, we're the cheetah girl. We're all about girl power. We're all about like being ourselves. We're all about dressing in cheetah pattern type clothes. It's all about girl power and us being us. And what also made it even more special is that the cheetah girls are diverse. There's not a single white person in that group. Chanel is Afro-Latino of Dominican and Puerto Rican, I believe. You have Galleria, who's black, and you have Aqua, who's black, and you have Dorinda, where technically you don't know her race, but the actress is Latina. And so that was very different, you know what I'm saying? You never really saw something like that on Disney Channel. And the fact they was willing to go there, like, says a lot. Then you get to the second movie. In the second movie, Chanel is supposed to move to Spain to live with her new stepfather, or soon-to-be stepfather, because they're not married yet. And the other girls don't want them to want her to go. And then all of a sudden, it's that hokey Disney stuff where a gust of wind blows open the magazine, and all of a sudden, oh look, there's a contest in Spain where they all get to go if they win. Of course, they win, they get to go, and they get to perform, and while there, they break up again because of reasons. And it's just a weird, hokey kind of thing to where they all just ended up in Spain, and they started performing, and they don't dress the same no more. The songs are different. It still feels a bit like Cheetah Girls, but kind of doesn't. And the storylines are still piggybacking off of the first movie, which is a problem because the second movie is basically the first movie, but just set in Spain. Then you get to the third movie, and it's just so different than what the other movies were. Galleria is gone. Oh, by the way, in the second movie, they was in the 11th grade. Now, in the third movie, they've graduated high school and 2 months away from college. Galleria is gone, and the three girls are still struggling to be famous and stuff. Then, all of a sudden, this guy wants them to be in a Bollywood movie in India, so all of a sudden, they go there. They don't explain how they pay for anything or anything like that. They just go to India, and after that, it turns out that only one of the girls can be in the movie. They're supposed to audition for the movie, but they decide not to, but they still have a falling out. Anyway, they all have love interests in the movie, and then they just pretty much do nothing but sing and dance and dress in Indian clothes. And the movie's not even really about them. It's about all the Indian characters in the movie. Which, if Disney Channel wanted to make an Indian movie, they should have just made an Indian movie and leave the Cheetah Girls out. It was just weird that they all of a sudden they went to India, and it's just all of a sudden now they want to be movie stars, and it's just kind of like, this has nothing to do with girl power or them being a music band or nothing like that. And it ended their televised franchise. The band stayed together for a year after that, but then broke up. And so with each passing movie, everything started to change. And in the third movie, everybody's personality was completely different. All of a sudden, Aqua is smart, and we never knew that. And she falls in love with a guy she's never met who apparently lived in India, and she had no idea, all because he's a tech support guy. Dorinda is in a really bad mood because she broke up with her boyfriend from the second movie. And Chanel is just there and everything. All of the side characters are gone. The parents and Chanel's little brother. I forgot she had a little brother in the first movie. The dude is pretty much non-existent in the first movie, and he's nowhere to be found in the second or third movie. They don't even explain where he is. He didn't even go to Spain. They just wrote him out the movie. Same with Galleria's dog. Where the heck was that dog in, like, the second movie? I guess it could have been with her dad when he was in Paris, but they never explained that. So, with the movies changing, their character development and growth was in a very odd spot. So, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to tell you what their characters were like in those other movies and how they should have been by fixing it. Because they should have had stronger character development and growth, but sadly they did not, because Disney Channel didn't care about that. They're just like, all right, look. Just put them in some fancy clothes, put them someplace exotic, have them sing and dance, and don't even worry about the story too much. That's basically what they did. So, let's start off with Galleria. She is the main girl. She is the first lead singer, and Chanel is the second lead singer, while the other two are just backup. Galleria is, she is, I like to think of the leader of the group. She's the one who's go-getting. She's the one trying to get them auditions. She's the one trying to get them, signed to like a record label and stuff like that. She is the one who pushes them to perform harder, more, and stuff like that. She's also a bit selfish. When the girls have like ideas as to what they want to do, she's not for that. Like when Chanel wanted to sing Spanish in the second movie, Galleria was not for that because she don't speak Spanish and stuff. And it's like every little idea they have, she just like, nah, we ain't doing that. And so like it causes a rift between like the girls, and it takes her a while to figure out that, they're a group and it's not just like her. And like, and when the girls start to like mess up in rehearsals and stuff like that, like, it just really frustrates her. So she's one of those people who is very driven, but she drives them too hard. And she has to work on her personality and realize that it's a team effort. All good and well, then you get to that of the second movie. And in the second movie, she still is exactly the same. Only difference now is that her personality is a bit more juvenile. She's constantly making weird childish expressions when she talks and everything, and when she's out and about. It's almost like Raven Simone was trying to be Raven Baxter in the Cheetah Girl movie, which, that show was around during that time. And it's just kind of odd because in the first movie, she's very serious. And in this one, she still is a little serious, but she's very goofy in her expressions. She's barely in the second movie. And one of the reasons probably for that is because her and the girls in real life started to fight in real life. But once again, she's pushing them very hard and they don't want to practice. And it's to the point where Galleria is all like, if you don't want to practice, then fine, whatever. I'm just going to go to Paris, be with my dad, and go back home. She literally just gave up. I'm just like, really? You've been wanting to be famous all your life, and when the girls just don't want to, like, practice, you're like, all right, I give up. Like, what kind of attitude is that? What they should have done was this. Like, after the first movie, like I said before, when she's pushing them really hard and all this other crap, and it caused problems, they did that here again, but only a little bit. They can still do that too, where she's trying to like, hey, look, we got to practice and all this other stuff. They don't want to. She realizes you have to practice to be successful. If they're not willing to do that, then it's going to cause like a problem, and she should have got on to them. Now, in the movie, there is a new character in the second movie called Marisol. And her mom is desperately trying to get her daughter to win, even if it means putting her in the Cheetah Girl band or stealing one of the Cheetah Girls, which her mom instructs her to steal Chanel away from the group, befriend her, and become famous with her, or somehow weasel away into the group. Instead of Chanel, it should have been that of Galleria. She should have tried to steal Galleria away from the rest of the girls. This would have gave her a perfect opportunity to contemplate it or actually do it, because the other girls do not want to practice and do not want to listen to her, and they're catching the attitude with her. That should have been her storyline, and then she should have realized, what am I doing? We're supposed to be this girl group, and I'm over here with this complete stranger trying to make a new group and ditching my old one and everything. Like, that's not the cheetah girl way. That's not girl empowerment. And then she could have came to that realization, and then later, got back with her old group instead of her just giving up and wanting to leave. Now, of course, she's not in the third movie, so there's no point in talking about where she would go there. So next is Chanel. She's the second lead, and she's the second main vocalist and everything. And with her, what we know about her in the first movie is that she's really good friends with Galleria. They're best friends. They do everything together. Her family has, well, I don't know if her family really has a lot of money. I don't know where her original dad is, but her mom is dating this one guy who we never get to see. Her and her mom get along very well. They're fashionistas and everything. They're all about fashion. And her mom is supposed to move to Paris and live with her boyfriend. This pisses her off because she's like, you didn't even discuss this with me. I'm going to have to leave my friends, this and that. So she gets revenge in the form of shopping, stealing her mom's credit card, and charging over $100, which pisses her mom off. And so she realized that she was wrong for doing that, right? Now, come the second movie, also, she has a brother in the first movie. Like I said before, where the heck was he? Because he was barely in the first movie, and he was nowhere to be found afterwards. So anyway, come the second movie, she wants to do more. She wants to speak Spanish in her songs, because she is of Hispanic or Latino descent. She's also Dominican and African and stuff like that, and she wants to incorporate her people's culture into her music, which causes a problem because Galleria doesn't want to. This should have exploded big time between those two. It should have been she should have pushed more to do it. And if Galleria wasn't going to listen, then maybe she'll quit or maybe she'll threaten to quit the band or something like that, And it could have brought up a whole lot of tension. Now, like I said before, they tried to have Marcel steal her away. So she just basically hangs out with Marcel, but we never get to see what they talk about or do when they hang out. And so that's just was a half-baked plot on its own. And we could have seen her talk smack about Galleria and talking about how she really wants to speak Spanish and her songs and something to cause more of that friction and understand why she wants to do it. But the main storyline is now we finally get to see this boyfriend of her mom. And instead of Paris, now he's in Spain. She is grumpy throughout the entire movie because she does not want her mom to marry this man, and she does not want to live in Spain. So she's not making an effort whenever his family's around and they're hanging out. And so she's just looking grumpy, but we never get to see her argue or be disrespectful towards this man. They actually never really have no scenes together until the end of the movie. And so that something should have been shown. We should have seen more of her not wanting to be around him and his family, causing friction between her and her mom, and causing friction between him and just her and her mom. Instead, we see her mom upset, talking about, I don't think he's gonna marry me and blah blah blah, which causes Chanel to be upset and go talk to him. And when she does, she basically gives this heartfelt speech about talking about She doesn't want to see her mom getting hurt, and she's protective of her mom and all this other stuff, and that's why she's been acting the way she does. Yet we never, ever, 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 ever get to see that side of her. We never see her mom date other guys that were terrible and have her protect them. We never hear about it. So what was the point in saying that if we never hear about it or never get to see it? So then him and her decided they're gonna surprise her mom with an engagement and blah blah and get married and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like it was a weak storyline because we never got to see or hear any of this stuff that's supposed to cause the friction in that whole like plot line and everything. And it's just weird. She'll come to this realization of like, oh, okay, fine, get married, whatever. I'll accept this, whatever. Because the whole thing about the first movie, she did not want to move to another foreign country and split up from the band. But then, of course, he's all like, you know what? I decided I'm going to move to New York and we're all going to be together living there. And it just happens in a very Disney Channel kind of way. Then you get to the third movie. And she's now like the leader of the group, and she's still trying to make them famous because still to this day, they are not famous in the 4 or 5 years that they've been together since the movie first started. And all of a sudden, this guy's all like, hey, I want y'all to be in a movie in Bollywood. So they all go to India, and it turns out that he just has a crush on her. So when she finds that out, she has a crush on him back. Her and the band, they fight over like, oh, I thought you wanted to keep the band together, and oh, I thought we weren't gonna choose who get to be in the movie. And that's basically all she does. Basically, she's just there to like walk around, sing, and hang out with this guy who's her new love interest, but they have no chemistry together. It's just they're plucked together. We know he has a huge crush on her, but we never see her have a huge crush on him to begin with. And then now all of a sudden, when she finds out he likes her, all of a sudden now she likes him and kissing him. And it's just a weird plot line that they just threw together because they really didn't care about the third movie when it came to that, the Cheetah Girls and stuff. We never get to hear like, how are we gonna date? Because you live in India and I live in America and blah, 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 and stuff like that. And her mom's not even in the third movie. And of course, her brother's nowhere to be found, and neither is her stepdad and stuff. And it was just, they really didn't care to give her much to do in that movie. Now, Aqua is just Aqua in the first two movies. We know nothing about her other than in the first movie, it's explained she's a germaphobe and she's from Texas and not really used to all the dirtiness of New York. She also has a major attitude. Come the second movie, she's nicer. She's no longer a germaphobe but she still has a snippy attitude. That is literally all. We never get to meet none of her family. We don't know nothing else about her. So I don't really want to come up with anything about her. But the whole germaphobe thing, that's something they could have built on. And her being from Texas and living in New York. So if she's from Texas, going to Spain and India would be completely different to her. And we should have seen how she would adjust to that. We could have even seen people make fun of her because, she's from Texas. She has no accent, even though she should, but she has no accent, so they could have made fun of her because of that. They could have done something where they all like, oh, she got rid of her accent because people made fun of her. She dressed a little bit more Texan in the first movie, but after that, it was just all gone. And, because they have very different, bizarre ways in Texas and everything. And they could have explored that in the other movies, showing how she has a hard time adjusting. But then come the third movie, we find out she's really, really smart. She's more nicer in the third movie, and she's no longer rude. She's also no longer a germaphobe. Then it turns out that the reason why she keeps breaking her computer is so this tech support guy can call her because she likes the sound of his voice. She's literally desperate for a guy she's never met and falling in love with the sound of his voice. When she goes to India, it turns out, oh, he just happens to be there because most tech support people come from India. And so they automatically start dating. She finds out that he's super rich. She finds out that his parents control his life, And other than that, she has no other storyline in the third movie. And then he decides that his parent is gonna allow him to move to New York and go to college, and it's just kind of like they could have done more with her. They could have done more with the germaphobe stuff. They could have done more with the Texas stuff, with her being like a fish out of water. We could have seen, like I said, in India, we could have seen her act a certain way, and he'd be all like, he could have started laughing at her, like, why are you doing that? She's like, cause this is what we do, and he's all like, well, we don't do that here, and they could have done something like that, and actually given her something to do. Now, Dorinda is very interesting throughout all three movies because in the first two movies, she's pretty much exactly the same, kinda. And the third one, she changes a little bit. In the first movie, now there's a lot of stuff given to her in the first movie and stuff. We find out that, like, she's really, really good at dancing. She's so good that she was supposed to tour with these other dancers, but instead she decided to stay with the Cheetah Girls. This could have helped her out financially because we also find out her family is dirt poor, like extremely poor. So poor that like the other girls tend to have to like buy her costumes for like the Cheetah Girl stuff. And we also find out she is adopted. And she literally has no idea what her race is because she's never met, like, her birth parents. And back in those days, they really didn't do DNA tests to find out what your race is and stuff like that. Ancestry type things. And so she's a very fascinating character because of that. And so come the second movie, second and third movie, it's kind of unbelievable how she's able to get to Spain and able to get to India when she's supposed to be dirt poor. Like, she's literally dirt poor and everything. And she's probably the most human out of all, like, the Cheetah Girl characters because of that and stuff. And because she doesn't even know who she is. And so come the second movie, she's still doing the dancing thing. So I like that. And she finds a studio there and she starts practicing with Chanel's step cousin and everything, who she ends up crushing on and start dating. But then they have a scene to where he's supposed to hang out with some his friends, and he sees her, and she's a little upset because she's all like, "Why didn't you tell me I was supposed to dress up? I'm out here wearing like casual clothes and stuff." And then all of a sudden, he doesn't even introduce her to his friends, and they don't go out to lunch together. She gets pissed by this and tells him, like, so like, what is it? Like, I'm too poor for to hang out with you and your friends and like stuff like that, and you don't accept me and stuff like that. All for him to say, just because I have a rich uncle don't mean I'm rich. I'm actually poor myself, and I couldn't afford to pay for you at lunch and everything. So they make up because of that. And it's just kind of like, that's a little toss in the air kind of a story. It's kind of like, it would have been nice to see this build up. Maybe she mentioned she's poor in the second movie. I don't remember hearing her say that to him. But we should have seen scenes where she tells him, hey, I don't have a lot of money. We're going to this fancy place. I'm not going to be able to afford it. And what if instead of him being poor, what if he was rich? And he's all like, oh, it's okay, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'll flip the bill and everything, right? And then when it does come time for him to introduce her, then he doesn't want to introduce her because she is poor. You know what I'm saying? And it does offend her. Because honestly, I don't remember her ever telling him that in the movie. So how the heck would he even know that? But she came to that realization on her own and just wanted to be upset. Because that's how a lot of people are. They feel shameful. So they just automatically get upset. Now, if they wanted to keep that storyline, that's totally fine because, it's building on what we know about her in the first movie. But what about her being like, not knowing her own race? I feel like instead of going all the way to Spain for the second movie and India for the third, they should have kept it in America, and they should have traveled around America doing competitions for like, trying to like be in a band and stuff like that. And in one of these movies, because like I said before, in the third movie, she's in like a bad mood because her and her boyfriend broke up. and she's freaking out because the elephant keeps looking her in the eye. And so she kind of turns a little man hater for like a small bit, but then she tries to help this one guy date this one girl in the third movie. Different from all the other movies in her personality, and yes, would be character growth and development, but it just feels a little out of place. She also gets mad in the third movie about, like, this one girl trying to teach her an Indian dance, only for her to get in her face talking about, you trying to say I can't dance because I can dance. And this came out of nowhere, her like copping the attitude. But it's mostly because she's upset because, the whole boyfriend situation. But like I was saying before I completely went off track, what if, like I said before, instead of them going to these exotic countries, they stay in America, traveling this and that. And in one of the movies, either the second or the third, they could have done that storyline where she is poor and she can't afford to go on these trips. And like, the girls are like, oh, we'll pitch in. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to like earn my way and stuff like that. And it causes a rift because she might not be able to go. But then she just accepts it in a way and has like a funky attitude because of that, because she just feels like everybody's always chipping in to pay for her and stuff. And that could have been a better storyline than what we got in the second movie. Also, the whole thing about her race. What if in one of the movies she actually decides to go looking for her birth parents and stuff? That could have been real. That could have been deep, and that could have been an argument with her foster mom. And like, oh, what? I'm not good enough for you. I took care of you. And now all of a sudden you're looking for like your real parents. And she could have been like, no, I just want to know who I am. And then what if she meets her parents and they turn out to actually be rich? You know what I'm saying? Which it would be amazing for her because she's poor. But then she's kind of like, well, crap, dude. Like, I don't want to leave my foster family because they're poor and now I'm going to go live with these rich people. So what if she has to make a decision? What if she makes the decision to stay with her poor family because she loves them because they didn't abandon her? Or what if she goes to live with her rich family, but then also gives money to her foster parent family, helping them out? That could have been something. And that could have been like some real deep stuff, but Disney Channel just didn't want to go there. So yeah, the second and third movie frustrate me about how the development of these movies came to be, and also the characters' personalities and stuff. There's so much more they could have done with them, because think about it. If they would have gotten that Cheetah Girl television show, what would it have been like? Would it have been like, like a wacky Disney Channel show, or would it have been something more similar to that of the first movie? And like a hybrid, nowadays they do hybrids of the older Disney style and the newer Disney style. Could it have been more like Hannah Montana or Lizzie McGuire? Like, what would it have been like? You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like really irritated about how they just put little effort in their character growth. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.